withhold some of its billions of dollars in military assistance unless Israel improves aid delivery to Gaza, and this within the next 30 days. We'll talk more about this now with Israeli political commentator Dr. Ori Goldberg, who joins me from Tel Aviv. Ori, thanks for joining us. First of all, how unusual is this warning from the U.S.? Is this the first time that the U.S. has threatened to withdraw its military support?
I believe it is certainly for the duration of this conflict, that is for the past year. I don't think it's threatened to completely withdraw its support, but it has threatened restrictions, and the word embargo has been used. That's dramatic for American-Israeli relations.
And what about from Israel's standpoint? Can it allow itself to lose this kind of support from the United States, even if it's just part of the support?
Well, that depends on the real $64,000 question, which I think has no answer. And that is, what does Israel want? What is Israel's end game? I mean, one could make the argument that the humanitarian situation in Gaza would improve instantaneously if Israel stopped bombing and shelling Gaza. So if the prize for improving the humanitarian situation is getting more weapons, I fail to see the immediate logic. Since nobody knows what Israel wants, this gesture is mostly seen as symbolic or as an indication of Israel's slipping status, despite what Israelis think of as an undeniable stream of successes in their war on terror. There's a real dissonance between the way Israel perceives its situation and the way the world, and that includes the United States, perceives Israel's situation.
Well, given that, I mean, what do you think the United States would want Israel to do precisely? I mean, not just in regard to getting this aid into Gaza.
Ultimately, I think Israel would want the United States to get out of Gaza and allow a general negotiated settlement to start becoming real. And I would assume that in Lebanon, the United States and Israel actually share more interests, and the United States is interested in a Lebanese election that would drive Hezbollah from power. But right now, I think the United States and just everybody else in the world would basically like Israel to stop. Israel has reached the end of its rope. It's now bombing and killing and strafing and shelling almost for the sake of it alone.
Well, given that, and if that point is true, and of course the Israelis would say that they're defending Israel, that would be their argument. I mean, how far do you think Israel is willing to go? What ultimately might make it stop?
Since Israel doesn't know where it wants to go, then it is willing to go as far as that takes, which means nobody has an answer to that question. I don't think Israel has within its capacity the ability to stop itself now. I think a solution needs to be superimposed. It can be an American embargo. It can be a United for Peace resolution in the UN. It could be a lot of things, but the international community will have to get its act together and stop Israel. Israel is not in a position to stop itself.
Well, what about public opinion inside Israel? I mean, that's something we've seen has been shifting at first away from and then back toward Netanyahu, and now it seems away from him once again. Could public opinion play a role there in Israel?
Public opinion in Israel is split right down the middle, not into two separate camps, but on two separate issues or two separate axes. Israelis don't like Netanyahu. They don't trust Netanyahu. They feel like Netanyahu has a myriad ulterior motives. But Israelis see no other option except for the forever war that Netanyahu is offering them. That's very easy to demonstrate. There is no other politician in Israel that offers any kind of a political alternative to this forever war. So as long as Netanyahu is the one who's doing it and leading it, a lot of Israelis are even saying things like, well, he'll lose the next election after this, there's no doubt. But right now, since we have to fight a war, which is what most Israelis think, he should be the one leading it. So again, they don't trust Netanyahu. They don't like Netanyahu. They don't think Netanyahu is doing a good job. They don't see any other alternative. A broad consensus of Israelis supports war as the only option.
In the meantime, here again, we have the United States that's telling Israel they have to open these channels to get in humanitarian aid or else perhaps risk losing U.S. military assistance. I mean, what is the state at the moment of humanitarian aid getting into Gaza, especially in the north? Is any getting in at all?
That's a good question. It really depends on who you ask. In any case, however, not enough humanitarian aid is getting into northern Gaza. Just as we were beginning to speak, I saw that the Israeli military announced 50 trucks of humanitarian aid entering northern Gaza at the instruction of political leadership. what does that mean in northern Gaza at the moment? How many people are left in northern Gaza? The truth is, the situation on the ground is chaotic. There's very little reliable information. One thing we know for sure that this is catastrophic chaos, and that Israel is contributing directly to both the chaos and the catastrophe. I assume the American dictate is that Israel has to step up and do something visible to improve the situation. The 30-day expiration date is somewhat laughable because in 30 days, the United States may be completely different than it is right now.
Dr. Ori Goldberg, thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us there from Tel Aviv.
Thank you for having me.